Hello, I'm Yoko, and welcome to year 18 of GalaxyClan. This series is an adult now. That being said, this year was extremely dramatic, and we have a Dark Forest animatic again. But compared to past years, a majority of the events that will be shown is all stuff that actually did happen based on in-game statuses, and only a couple things are me specifically rolling events, and you'll probably be able to tell which ones I did. And this animatic will be less of a clear story and more like sneak peeks of multiple stories that we will come back to and explain more of during certain cat sections in this. There also might be a couple minor Dark Forest related things that are missing from the animatic that will be brought up later. But before we hop in, as a reminder, GalaxyClan's Dark Forest includes Frecklespot, Silkfur, Hopefern, and Ospreyclaw. We left behind the other clan's Dark Forest cats when we moved, with the exception of Cedarblade, who felt little connection to Bug Clan itself and just likes the chaos of fights in general, so he followed us. And I must introduce you to a new face. This is Butterfly Paw of Viper Clan. Stream watchers might recognize her because she's their guide and she's in the Dark Forest. Her backstory isn't completely known, but in general that Viper Clan cats are more likely to go to the Dark Forest because of her and the nature of their clan in general. In-game, they kind of automatically get sent to the Dark Forest. And if they do go to StarClan, we have to manually send them. I also got some inspirations from some headcanons that were related to Butterfly Paw that I saw in the Discord. And just know that she's very important and she'll show up in a bit. But with all that said, let's start the animatic. Also blood warding for a portion of the section later. But yeah, let's start. Oopsie Daisy noticed that Larkpaw looked upset during a patrol and stopped to ask what was wrong. He explained that he was having strange dark dreams of shadows and mentioned a specific cat that he saw in them. However, after hearing that, Oopsie Daisy was sure that must be StarClan and he should be thrilled. She wondered how he could use his unexpected ability and they brainstormed together. Another night, Fuzzy Flake woke up confused, finding himself in the Dark Forest, not that he realized that. Silkfur asked if Fuzzy Flake wanted help to be a strong warrior and began to try to introduce himself. Ospreyclaw cut off Silkfur with Fuzzy Flake excitedly greeting his sister. She simply told her brother that he was dreaming and opened up a path to an actual dreamscape, directing him there instead, saying that there's a much better dream there. After Fuzzy Flake left, Silkfur hissed at Ospreyclaw for ruining his plans, and Ospreyclaw hissed that he has no real plans and told him to stop messing with the living cats, especially her kin. She called him a desperate fool with no idea what he's doing. Cedarblade suddenly appeared, saying at least he's fun to fight, and that's all you really need down here. Ospreyclaw walked away as Cedarblade began a sparring match against Silkfur's will, being no stranger to picking fights of her own. On another day, Branchdeer was lost in his thoughts on patrol a bit, and his heart stopped at the sudden clear appearance of Hopefern in front of him, and frantically stepped backwards to get away from her, not noticing the trap until it was too late. He hissed in pain as his apprentice ran to help him. While the pain blinded him in the moment, he later wondered if Hopefern was even there in the first place. Another day found Frecklespot cautiously making her way through an area of the Dark Forest. The Viper Clan cats watched her, knowing their leader allowed her access to their territory as she had blood currently in their clan, but not trusting the outsider. Frecklespot made her way to where Butterfly Paw sat grooming herself. Frecklespot asked for a favor regarding some special skills that Butterfly Paw had access to. Ospreyclaw sat in a tree nearby trying to hear the conversation, having followed Frecklespot here. But Butterfly Paw made eye contact with Ospreyclaw and coldly said that snakes can hunt birds, and the feathered fools should fly away when they have the chance. Ospreyclaw growled but listened to the clear warning, leaving without hearing information. She made her way to her brother's dream, with Springhaze expecting her, waiting for updates. She said that Frecklespot is planning something with Viper Clan. Hopefern has been causing issues, but Ospreyclaw has her in line now, and gave a list of cats that Silkfur has been trying to make contact with. At another time, Flamebear blinked open his eyes to see a butterfly flutter past him. He shot up, sure that this must be a sign from his mother, Butterfly Catcher. He followed the insect, not realizing where it led him, and was surprised for many reasons when he came face to face with a young cat. Butterfly Paw excitedly introduced herself and innocently looked up at him. She said his hair was so cool she tried to look like him, as Flamebear felt uncomfortable of how she reminded him of his mother. Flamebear then realized where they were and asked loudly if this is the Dark Forest and what was a kid doing here. Butterfly Paw looked sad and said she didn't remember anymore, but StarClan can be meanies. She slowly walked around him and said all she remembers is that she was a loyal apprentice to her clan, and sometimes sacrifices have to be made. She whipped her head around suddenly, yelling that his clan was in danger and StarClan would be no help. She placed her paw on Flamebear's and reassured him that she knew how to help, though. Flamebear felt dazed as her eyes drew him in, and she said that he had to do this to save his clan from drawn-out suffering. She knew he could do it. On another day, the young warrior Midnight Lilac wasn't doing his best on patrol, and Hollowstar noticed, asking the warrior what was wrong. Midnight Lilac told his leader that he was having StarClan visions of a she-cat that said that she was his kin. She promised to train him, but something felt wrong, and StarClan was less welcoming than he expected. But Frecklespot assured him that it was fine. Hollowstar yelled at the young cat that he was being manipulated by the Dark Forest, and he was never to go there again. If he continued to, he would not be welcome to stay in his clan. The leader was interrupted from his frantic speech by a harsh cough. Midnight Lilac promised he wouldn't go back and said that they should go back to camp so a medicine cat could see the leader. The next moon, Springhaze entered the sick leader's den, apologizing for the interruption and telling him to stay laying down. Springhaze said that he couldn't wait and had to tell Hollowstar of concerning information, even if the timing was bad. Meanwhile, Flamebear woke up from a vivid dream, Snake Eye blinking away sleep when, while she didn't really want to, she began to ask what was wrong. They were interrupted and she shot up at the loud cry of a cat. Cats around the clan woke up and were shocked at Hollowstar violently dragging Springhaze out of his den by the throat, gasping as Hollowstar threw Springhaze into the camp clearing. Hollowstar yelled that he wanted to hear nothing of the Dark Forest, and any cat that has connections to it will be harshly punished. He got more incoherent as he yelled about liars, traitors, and spies in between coughs, and until he stopped suddenly and fell to the ground, losing a life in front of the clan. Flamebear hissed as Hollowstar's family tried to run to him, harshly saying that they were mouse brains and he must be isolated. He has lives to spare, but they don't, and Hillfuzz is an elder as well as expecting kits. He yelled that no one was to irritate the leader more. Flamebear dragged Hollowstar back to his den, leaving Snake Eye to deal with Springhaze's injuries. Meanwhile, in Viper Clan, Snipcloud slept curled around his mate Silvally, who was expecting more kits. The two were woken up at the cries of cats, and Snipcloud ordered his mate to stay put, running into the rain to investigate. The camp was quickly flooding, and he saw his son Pikefleck being dragged into the water. Snipcloud jumped in and tried to keep them both above it, but the waves were strong. He was swept under and lost grip of his son. The last thing that Snipcloud saw was Frecklespot dragging him farther into the water until everything went black. Snipcloud woke up in a familiar place with the sense of a few clanmates around him. He snarled as Frecklespot walked around him, welcoming him back to his rightful place. But Snipcloud was distracted as a young cat, unknown to him, ran up after she had been talking to the other cats. Butterfly Paw excitedly welcomed Snipcloud to Viper Clan's resting grounds, saying that she was happy to have him here, as Snipcloud felt himself relaxing looking into her eyes. He accepted his fate of being sent to the Dark Forest without a fight. Back in GalaxyClan, on the night of a half moon, small remnants of water hemlock were scattered across GalaxyClan's Medicine Cat den. Flamebear had stayed behind from the Medicine Cat meeting to watch over a few sick cats in clan, and he stood over the body of a cat he had just put out of their misery. It was for the sake of the clan, and he had to do this. He stood frozen as the quiet sound of a misplaced paw step rang throughout the den. He turned around with a glare that made the witness realize too late that they definitely saw something that they shouldn't have. Like I said, you'll get more answers as we go through cats, but for now, here's Snipcloud, who died at 71 moons old, which shocked everyone watching the Viper Clan stream, including me. No Snipstar, guys. The game said no. He died in a flood mass extinction along with his son Pikefleck, who was Viper Clan's only medicine cat at the time. And Silvally was expecting another litter when he died. And his last litter is another girl named Rattlekit who shares his eye color, a son named Littlekit who rolled to get his mask, and another son named Storkkit who has the actual mask pelt in-game and looks a lot like Pikefleck, his one dead son. Pikefleck is in the Dark Forest too, but I'm only drawing Snipcloud. Like I said, Viper Clan cats are more likely to be sent to the Dark Forest. Butterfly Paw basically can use a small form of hypnosis on cats used to manipulate cats. And Viper Clan has an entire section of the Dark Forest as a territory. But going back to when he was alive, his apprentice did end up scarred from the training wound after Snipcloud had them training with claws out, and he had his head in the clouds, causing some cats to be disappointed in his performance. He also hunted near the two-leg dens after his mate boldly suggested it, and I think they were looking for their lost son, Waterpaw. Snipcloud was also crushing on another cat that wasn't Silvally, but that didn't really go anywhere. Also, Snipcloud had a tense patrol seeing GalaxyClan cats the moon before his death. But when Snipcloud did die, his status was immediately that he had no regrets, and he later mentioned that he was making plans. He still hates Frecklespot, who taunts him, and for now, I think he's keeping an eye on his son. Which, by the way, I think Pikefleck was warned about the flood because he saw what he thought was some kind of message with water ripples, but he ended up brushing it off thinking it was from a small frog, but I think that was a warning for the flood. But yeah, no Snipstar, and let's go to StarClan now. And for the sake of drawing some cats together, not everyone is going to be drawn at the actual time that they died. Snipcloud died much later into the year, for example. But that being said, Hollowstar and Hillfuzz's first litter has tragically both died. Flightstrike died 2 moons into the year, only 16 moons old, and blood warning for a picture going up in 3, 2, 1. She was hit by a monster when crossing the Thunder Path, and heartbreakingly, her sister Nightfall was the only other cat there at the time. And the picture is gone. I was just trying to let the sisters have a cute patrol together, and then this happened. Poor Nightfall, she went on a couple long walks and fought after her sister's death. Obviously affected a lot. But she was excited when her parents announced that they were having a second litter, and while she didn't know them long, she seemed happy with her younger siblings. Nightfall was also worried about the failing health and erratic behavior of her dad, Hollowstar, but stood loyally by his side and kept her criticisms to herself. Nightfall died on the last moon of the year after eating tainted prey. But I'm so sad that we lost these two. That's so unfair. But next in StarClan is sadly the 121-moon-old Jinx Hale, who died 2 moons before the Nightfall of Yellow Cough. She had immediately retired earlier in the year and was mostly hanging out with her sibling Kale and watching kits. At one point, she woke up with multiple objects stacked on top of her, as well as the sound of mischievous kits, and that was really cute, but also the Wigglebutt kits were little menaces. She had asked the apprentices to help check for ticks twice this year when Wigglebutt's kits were the only apprentices, and it seems that she was well liked by the litter, even if she was on the receiving end of a couple jokes. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Jinx Hale. I'm really sad to see her go. But I'm also sad to say that the next up in StarClan is another pair of siblings, as both Stag Chaser and Yarrow Patch died this year. Starting with Stag Chaser, he died at 72 moons old, and he also found that he always had herbs stuck in his fur this year. Despite him immediately getting the status that he felt like there was ants pricking his pelt, so I don't know if he liked having the herbs. He also tossed a snake out of camp early in the year, and I'll be honest, I was doing more solo patrols than game because I was trying to avoid having to do a manual mass extinction. But he was ambushed by rogues alone, but Stag Chaser only snarled at them despite being outnumbered. He threw himself at them with ferocity that took the rogues aback, and he was able to run back to camp for more warriors. Unfortunately, the next moon, he died of Yellow Cough alongside Jinx Hale. Yarrow Patch died 1 moon later at 73 moons old. She'd actually got a crush on another she-cat this year, but never did anything about her crushes in the end. Hopefern had whispered in her ear to go after the new facing clan, but that put a bad taste in Yarrow Patch's mouth that the Dark Forest cat was encouraging this, and then she realized it was because Branch Deer was crushing on the same cat. Hopefern did not like that. In the end, Yarrow Patch died on patrol when she followed a Moss Clan scent to a cat in a tree who tried to warn her, but blood warning in 3, 2, 1. Despite her trying to get to safety, she wasn't fast enough and a dog ended up killing her. And the picture is gone now. I'm so sad that we lost these two. They were both great warriors and I really would have liked to see either of them as a future deputy. And with them gone, all of Cloudjay and Ottertail's kits have passed and none of them had kits of their own. But sadly, Wormshade also passed away the same moon as Yarrow Patch, but earlier. He died at 77 moons old, and he mostly wanted to stay under the radar this year. Basic hunting patrols and the such. Just doing his job. He was showing his nervous trait more than usual, and I think he feared Hollowstar, especially after his outbursts. Wormshade also wasn't the happiest at a certain decision that the leader made, but he bit his tongue. Wormshade died on a time skip where it said that he was found dead in the snow, and as similar to what I said last year, I imagine he was with his brother Trufflesprout and his mom Lavender Heather when he died. This family is cursed, I swear. Rushwind needs to stay bundled in camp. Every leaf bear, do not follow these footsteps. I don't want this to keep happening. But Wormshade and Yarrow Patch are somehow the least dramatic deaths to happen in the same moon. Because Cavern Bounce was murdered at 36 moons old on that same moon, and I won't keep it a secret because the game did outright state that Flame Bear was the one who killed him, and he used water hemlock to do it. And Cavern Bounce was the victim hinted at during the animatic section. I'll get into more information when we get to Flame Bear's section, but before he was murdered, Cavern Bounce had deputy goals and also asked Frostlichen if he wanted to be his mate, and he said yes. They seemed happy and in a honeymoon phase in their own way, chasing out large dogs and such. After Cavern Bounce's sister had kits, he was involved with them, checking in on them, telling stories of the Great Tail Chaser and the Witch Hare. The last one being from Hilfuzz, who talked about it earlier in the year. And if you guys have ideas of what these stories are, let me know. But during this same time, he actually broke up with Frostlichen after an argument, but they immediately got back together. And then Cavern Bounce was feeling down, which makes me wonder if Cavern Bounce wanted kits of his own, but Frostlichen didn't. There is more argument possibilities, but I'll wait for those. Cavern Bounce was also buried alive on patrol, but luckily he was saved. But yeah, I'm so sad to see him go. And he's not the last death on this same moon. So many cats died in one moon. Because on this same moon that the game said that Cavern Bounce was murdered, Pond was also murdered by an unknown killer at 34 moons old. And I'm screaming. I did check the code to see who killed her, and all I'll say for now is that it was not Flame Bear, and I will tell you who it is when we get to them. Also, the game didn't say how she was murdered, but I'm going to say it was a similar method to Flame Bear, most likely. Not something violent like a fight. Pond was just being a sweet mediator. She was relieved to break up an argument before it started at one point, and was also helping to negotiate herb disputes with J-Clan, which she was stated to have a really good time with. Part of me wonders if J-Clan liked her natural false wings that she has. She had also gotten closer to Fuzzy Flake and Gold Dazzle, who both liked her back at the time of her death, but that never went anywhere. This was such a dramatic moon in-game. I was so upset. So many cats died. But yeah, we lost our sweet little mediator, but sadly we have a couple more deaths. The newly named Lark Curl died at only 15 moons old, and he also died eating tainted prey on the last moon of the year, along with Nightfall. He was a bold warrior with helpful insight, and side note, I didn't make his family have curly fur for his name. They did randomly roll that for their side bonus traits that I roll, but it was a fun coincidence. I was fine having Curl just relate to his mustache, but the curly fur sure is a bonus. And speaking of his mustache, he interrupted his apprentice ceremony saying that he wanted Oopsie Daisy as a mentor, and it was granted. And it was so cute having the two mustache cats training together. He missed a shrew in his first patrol, but Oopsie Daisy didn't let him stay down and installed the Oopsie Daisy mindset in him, saying that it was fine as long as he improved. Sulkfur was walking in Larkpaw's dreams, but unfortunately, Oopsie Daisy mistook these for dreams of StarClan. You see, a lot of the newer members of the clan hadn't really heard about the Dark Forest. Holostar wants to hear nothing about it, and discussions had pretty much quieted down. That is until later in the year for obvious reasons. But that being said, Larkpaw seems to have been fine, and Osprey Claw probably guided him away from the danger. He was honored for his dauntlessness at his warrior ceremony, and he sent a Viper Clan apprentice back to their own territory after catching them hunting on ours, reporting the incident to Stonefawn and bringing the prey back to camp. And I'm sad to see our mustache boy go, but we do have one last cat in StarClan this year, and it is a doozy. Echo Lily died at 37 moons old, and I would have drawn her next to her brother, but I wanted to keep all three of the murder victims in order at least. Because yes, Echo Lily was also murdered just one moon after Cavern Bounce and Pond, and it was an unknown killer. And I checked the files again, and it's not Flame Bear or the cat that killed Pond. So we have 3 different cats in the clan right now that have killed, and I am screaming. This is crazy. But ignoring that for now, it doesn't look like Silkfur bugged her anymore this year, and it really just seems like he was trying and failing to reach out to any cat he could, with Osprey Claw potentially leading some away, which fits well with the fact that Osprey Claw was watching Echo Lily with a smile earlier in the year, which I'm going to read as a non-malicious thing, even though it was technically a sly one in-game. Also, Echo Lily's tail was scarred by a dog, and then the next moon, Echo Lily was so excited because she announced that she was expecting kits, and she was really excited because she wanted to announce it at the gathering. She just wanted to share the news everywhere. She and Dreamsmoke had 2 sons, and Echo Lily was murdered on the same moon that they became apprentices right before their ceremonies. which is horrible. The only cat that she had a semi-bad interaction with this year was a Bispaw who hissed at her once, but I'll be going into her killer later. Again, I think it was a similar method to the way that Flame Bear killed. You'll see. But for now, let's look at our living clan. Starting with Hollowstar, who is now 122 moons old, and there's a lot to talk about. Let's start with the fact that he lost 3 lives this year, and that they were all lost in the same time in-game to White Cough of all things. Again, the fact that this cat has apparently lost all of his lives so far to White Cough is wild. That being said, I have suspicions that he might have been being slowly poisoned instead of healed by a certain medicine cat in-game. But in-game, he did just die to White Cough 3 times, all in the same moon. Also, only the medicine cats and Hilfas know how many lives that Hollowstar is down to. But the clan is aware that he lost at least one of them after his unhinged outburst where he just collapsed. But going back in time, Hollowstar was questioning his ability to lead and seemed to try to go back to his younger days, assigning himself a troublesome apprentice. But the two did end up bonding in the end. Hollowstar was put on edge when Midnight Lilac brought up Frecklespot, but he hoped that he set the cat straight and that would be the end of it. So when Spring Haze had come forward, beginning to speak of trouble in the Dark Forest, Hollowstar's paranoia, the fact that he was sick, the loss of his daughter earlier in the year, and the fact that Hilfaz was expecting more kits led to him harshly punishing Spring Haze. Hollowstar honestly is not making the best choices, and he actually named one of his new daughters Micah Kit, which Wormshade was not the biggest fan of. After the murders, Hollowstar was thinking of new ways to care for the clan, and he is really concerned with recent events. Also, in the last moon of the year, Hollowstar was badly injured when he saved Snake Eye from a dog. She took over healing him herself, and for anyone that did the random poll on my community post, the choices were about which scar Hollowstar got, but as you can see, the dog got him really bad based on your vote. Hollowstar really seems to take 1 step forward and 2 steps back with his actions, and I'm really worried about what he might do next, honestly. A lot of cats seem to not trust their leader lately, and I don't blame them, honestly. But moving on to our deputy. The 74-moon-old Stonefawn is still deputy, and her mate Lizard Snap is here as well. The two are currently grieving both Echo Lily and Cavern Bounce. They lost 2 kids very quickly, and more concerningly, evidence has shown that they were murdered. They are clinging a bit closer to Ghost Snow now, and are trying to keep an eye on their grandkids. The clan really doesn't feel safe to a lot of cats right now. But going back in time before the murders, Stonefawn had given advice to Wigglebutt when she left the nursery and began warrior duties. And Stonefawn got caught up in a storm with Lizard Snap, but luckily no one was harmed. Stonefawn had a status saying that she was using stories of the past to help guide her decisions. And on the same moon that Snipcloud died in Viper Clan, Lizard Snap and Stonefawn actually got into a snappy argument on patrol. But it wasn't a serious fight, and they agreed to take some time to cool off. Most likely on Lizard Snap's end. I'm wondering if Stonefawn had pushed a bit too much, asking if Lizard Snap felt bad about Snipcloud, but they couldn't really dwell on this due to the murders happening. I also will say that Lizard Snap does have a positive relationship with her brother's son, which I was hoping for. Despite her conflicted feelings for Snipcloud, it seems that she doesn't feel any anger or distrust to Midnight. But moving into the Medicine Cat Den for now. Flame Bear is 83 moons old now, and this man has fallen down the deep end. Earlier in the year, he was loudly bickering with the Medicine Cat of Moss Clan, and I decided that he stopped going to half-moon meetings, finding them a waste of time when the event is about socializing with the other clan's Medicine Cats instead of just speaking to Star Clan like it used to be. As shown in the animatic, I've decided that Frecklespot asked Butterfly Paw to make contact with him, hoping that she could remind him of his mother and manipulate him with her semi-hypnosis powers. He was looking dazed a couple moons this year, and he fought over the young cat's words, which was that the clan was overpopulated and greedy. Too many cats leads to more couples and more kits, which leads to long drawn-out starvation in Leaf Bear, and it is best to sacrifice some for the sake of the rest, but StarClan are too cowardly to admit it. And I just want to point out that Hollowstar lost 3 lives to White Cough, 2 cats died of Yellow Cough, 2 died from tainted prey, and 3 were outright murdered, with 1 specifically being from Flame Bear. I kind of think Flame Bear has been poisoning his patients, and I'm interested what you guys think. I've also decided that Cavern Bounce's murder occurred on the time of the half-moon meeting, and that Flame Bear made the cat that caught him in the act kill Pond, so that they would both be involved with this, get some blood on their hands. To avoid suspicion of himself, he revealed that 2 cats were murdered with water hemlock inside the clan. Also, on the last moon of the year, Flame Bear was on a solo patrol where he heard the whispers on the wind that would lead to a queen and kits usually, and I clicked antagonize. Flamebear hissing at StarClan and ignoring the signs. Flamebear has fallen, and he has fallen hard. Also, if you remember the snake omens that he was oh so worried about, Flamebear is now being manipulated by the guide of Viper Clan of all places. Really seeming like the omens might just be about himself. And I'm rolling other cats to basically see if they'll find out what he did. One of which being the 61-moon-old Snake Eye, who is now mates with the 64-moon-old Firefog after he confessed to her. Snake Eye has rolled to be highly suspicious of Flamebear, but unfortunately the moon after the murder of Cavern Bounce and Pond, she made Flamebear join her on a half-moon meeting to get him out of camp, and when they came back, Echo Lily had been killed while they were gone, which did make her suspicion go away. Flamebear had an alibi, so surely she shouldn't mistrust him, just because they happen to not get along. She's been thinking about getting another apprentice a lot, and she gave Tansy to J-Clan when they asked earlier in the year. She was also hearing the voices of StarClan cats on the moon that Cavern Bounce and Pawn were murdered, which I've interpreted as she heard the whispers and muffled words from the murder victims while she was with the other medicine cats, which she couldn't really make out, and she felt guilty seeing their fate when she returned the clan. Snake Eye is worried about the recent outbreak of sickness, but doesn't think any deaths beyond the 3 confirmed murder victims were suspicious. Also, Snake Eye was concerned about Hollowstar, but overall thinks that he is a good cat, just stressed after seeing him risk his life to save her from a dog. On Firefog's side of things, Snake Eye has banned him from going near foxes anymore. He got 2 different scars from them this year, and he needs to know what he can and can't take on, at least for now. She did suggest that he focus more on battle training, and he agreed, with her offering to help out a bit since she is a good fighter. Though she tells him to take it easy in New Leaf when his allergies are the worst. He's trying his best, but he's better at hunting than fighting, it seems. He's also interested in learning about herbs, at least in idea, since many do make him sneeze. But he likes hearing Snake Eye talk about her interests. And I have gotten Flamebear's hate for Snake Eye out of the red a little bit with mediators, but I am still really worried about her right now. Hoping she gets an apprentice soon and wishing for the best with our new couple heading into the mediators, who I'm drawing together because the 123 moon-old Kale actually came out of his early retirement the moon after Pawn's murder to help out with the 120 moon-old Thunder Spirit with their mediator duties. And that was really sweet of her. These two are really close and I love them. Kale was sad at Jinx Hale's death, but he's determined to help out Thunder Spirit best he can now. Though I will also say that the last of their Viper Clan kin, Elkflick, passed away as well, so Kale really has no living kin anymore. Meanwhile, on Thunder Spirit's side, they were contemplating teaching the entire clan communication skills, which, yes, Thunder Spirit, go do that, we desperately need it. They tried to discuss hunting disputes with Viper Clan, but unfortunately made no progress, but it's Viper Clan. Thunder Spirit felt stabbed by Pawn's murder. She was so young and they grew fond of having the young cat around and helping. Thunder Spirit is grateful for the Kale's help, and very interestingly, Osprey Claw whispered in Thunder Spirit's ear, and I rolled to see how much she told them, / how this went, and Thunder Spirit knows that there is a danger close to them right now, but they have no idea who Osprey Claw was referring to. Thunder Spirit is still unaware that Flamebear is a killer, but is trying to help their son's hatred towards certain cats go down, but it is a lot to deal with. And now let's go see our warriors. Starting with a new face that joined on a time skip, I promise I didn't I promise I didn't invite more cats this year. Meet the 95 moon-old Whisker Gleam, who is loyal and very clever. She joined relatively early in the year, and immediately some cats in clan were drawn to her. She had a mutual crush on Yarrow Patch and was sad to see her pass, but she also currently has a mutual crush on Branch Deer, but she can sense that he seems conflicted about her for some reason, and she's giving him some space. She has no idea of the messy past relationship that he's had with Hope Fern. Beyond that, Whisker Gleam was the one to save Cavern Bounce when he'd been buried alive, and she was sad at his murder. Overall, she seems like a really nice cat to have around, and I hope we see more of her. She's also very pretty, and I'm happy to have another Calico again in clan. But next up is Oopsie Daisy, who is now 92 moons old, and she was having a great year. She gave advice to a Biscuit when they'd been catching the most prey on patrols, and she was excited to get Larkpaw as an apprentice, and did her best to encourage her little mustache buddy. Though she did realize she messed up later when more cats were talking about the Dark Forest, and she realized that he was not having a vision from StarClan, and she hopes nothing bad ended up happening there. She went on a long walk deep in thought after his death. Also, when Echo Lily did announce kits, Oopsie Daisy gave her advice, which makes me wonder if she had any litters in the past before joining the clan. Also, she is still crushing on Kale, and it's mutual, but Kale still does like Thunder Spirit more than her. But that's on the table. But yeah, she's been pretty helpful this year, if a bit naive at times. But she's really doing her best. Moving on to the 88-moon-old branch deer. He lost a leg, so he's maxed on scars in-game, but he got the status of stepping on a two-leg trap and injuring his leg. So I rolled the damage, and this is the outcome. This happened about halfway through the year, and on the same moon, Hopefern was watching him with malice, and she needs to leave this man alone. Going back in time a bit, he quickly finished training Midnight Paw, who basically immediately became a warrior, after proving that he did have the needed skills, and Branch Deer was, again, almost immediately given a new apprentice who gave him some trouble. She was a brat, to be honest, but after his injury, she softened and the two actually bonded, which I thought was cute, and he gave her a friendly nudge at her warrior ceremony. Like I said, he is crushing on Whisker Gleam, but he has conflicted feelings about seeking out a new relationship after Hopefern. Possibly also because they have similar colors, but Whisker Gleam is more white and is fluffier. But in my opinion, I'd love to see Branch Deer move on to a healthy relationship, but him deciding not to date again would be equally valid, and I'm interested in these two. I also checked how Snake Eye feels about Whisker Gleam, and Snake Eye has a positive relationship with her, so I think it would go well. But next up is Wigglebutt, who is now 87 moons old, and she got into some trouble when she left the nursery. She was immediately caught taking food from a two-leg and reprimanded that she can't have a paw in each world if she wants to be a warrior. She followed advice from Stonefawn and hoped that Holostar noticed her improvement. She was misty-eyed at her kit's apprentice ceremonies, and she also gave tips to new parents. She seemed to be close to Echo Lily, and she tried to stay strong with the grief of losing Lark Curl for the sake of her new apprentice, which is one of Echo Lily's sons. It seems that Holostar did notice her improvement after all, and despite the circumstances, she's proud to be trusted as a mentor. But moving on, next up is the 50-moon-old Frostlycan. Earlier in the year, he chastised a clanmate, but no one was sure what for. Frostlycan chased away two different smaller dogs, along with the large dog that he led out of the territory with Cavern Bounce, which I'm wondering if that was the same dog that ended up attacking Echo Lily. Despite not having many feelings beforehand, he accepted Cavern Bounce's confession and seemed to be having a good time with him as his mate, until they had that brief breakup and things were a bit rockier. Very interestingly, that fight has many things it could have been about. As before mentioned, it could have been over kits, but Silkfur also walked in the dreams of Frostlycan, and Frostlycan is a cat that I'm not sure was led away from him. Despite being strict, I can see that he might be training since he has a desperate need to prove himself. Another thing the two might be fighting about is the fact that Frostlycan secretly met with a Moss Clan cat at night, and he might have been cheating on Cavern Bounce. That being said, the fact that the two fought each other shortly before Cavern Bounce's murder has made some cats suspicious that Frostlycan might have been the one to kill Cavern Bounce, which might have been part of Flamebear's plan, honestly, in revealing that his cause of death specifically was murder to the clan. Frostlycan is kind of getting framed right now, and I hope that he proves himself innocent, because he's not a murderer. And I just want to see where he goes from here. Moving on to the 50-moon-old Scavenger, she accepted the 41-moon-old Guppy Shade's confession, and they have become mates. Before that happened, they were training together, and Guppy Shade couldn't land a blow on her and was distracted as she teasingly whipped her tail along his throat. Scavenger was later seen arguing and borderline fighting with a Viper Clan cat, and she has expressed thoughts that Holostar could be leading the clan better. On the other side of the couple, Guppy Shade is more level-headed and does things such as calmly taking the lead on patrol when his clanmates argued over this and that. Also, it seems Scavenger had convinced Guppy Shade to break the code because during Leaf Bear, in the height of the sickness and tainted prey events, Guppy Shade went missing for a few days in-game and came back with a pink bow, which is a more magenta color in-game, but I like the color I chose for the bow in the drawing better. And I've interpreted that as Scavenger convinced him to take food from Two Legs with her, and he accidentally got caught for a bit. He didn't get fixed or anything, and she admits that it was a bad idea, but he's not mad at her, despite hearing the judging whispers from his clanmates. He is also growing to like the bow, with Scavenger saying that it looks pretty. Looking forward to more from these two, they're very cute. Moving on to the now 48-moon-old Fuzzy Flake, he's a dad now. Gold Dazzle is currently in the nursery with his kits, but I picture him as a partial den dad who happily takes his turn watching the kits when she wants to go stretch her legs. As shown in the animatic, Silkfur tried to reach out to him, but Osprey Claw quickly redirected him and he thought nothing of the dream. He had wanted to talk to Pond at some point when they all had crushes on each other, and I'm sad that that never became a thing, but oh well. When Gold Dazzle was still expecting, Fuzzy Flake told her that he feels like he trips over his own tongue and never says anything helpful, which made Gold Dazzle joke that he's sure that he's the one tripping over their tongue in this relationship, playfully gesturing to hers, but she followed that up by genuinely reassuring him that she doesn't want him to change, and he says many meaningful things. I think he had a little self-conscious moment where he wasn't sure if he would be a good dad, but he's a great dad. Fuzzy Flake was shocked at Hollowstar's punishment of his brother, but Springhaze coldly said he's fine and to focus on his family, softening at the end, saying that he deserves to be happy, so just stay out of this. Speaking of Springhaze, he ignored Osprey Claw's advice and decided to try to talk to Hollowstar after hearing how bad things seemed to be getting in the Dark Forest. But he couldn't get the important stuff out before Hollowstar was angered and Springhaze was left stammering over his words. And you saw how that ended. Also, Hollowstar did punish him in-game, but before that happened, Springhaze had actually been doing really amazing things like saving Ghost Snow, Branch Deer, and Abyss Paw from drowning, and also valiantly leading a dog away alone, ready to give his life to the clan, with the beast being close enough to feel its breath and hear its teeth snapping behind him. Luckily, he did make it to safety in the end, but some cats are now looking at him suspiciously because Hollowstar publicly punished him and shouted about the Dark Forest. So now he's a murder suspect for a few cats, despite him being innocent and just doing his best for the clan. Springhaze does know, however, that Flamebear is a killer, and he is trying to keep an eye on his uncle, and I'm going to roll how successful he is at potentially exposing him or watching him as we go on. Also, Springhaze has a crush on both Guppyshade and Scavenger, but seems to be too caught up with seeking justice to focus on himself. Really worried about our resident detective here, and I hope he stays safe. But moving on to the 37-moon-old Ghost Snow, he just had both of his siblings murdered and he isn't taking it the best. He's been a bit clingy with his moms, but they don't mind and the family is grieving together. He had the status of wondering if StarClan can hear him, and that broke my heart. Earlier in the year, he was doing great and took on the lion's share of chasing out a large dog, and side note, there's so many dogs this year. But yeah, he isn't doing the best right now, hoping he recovers from his grief soon. He also did seem to warm up a bit more to Dreamsmoke this year, which makes it the fact that Echo Lily died sadder to me. But speaking of, the 34-moon-old Dreamsmoke just lost his mate and is now a single father to 6-moon-old sons, but he is determined to be a better dad than Flamebear was. In fact, when Echo Lily announced her kits, he gave Flamebear quote-unquote advice, which I decided was Dreamsmoke telling him that he wanted Flamebear to stay away from his kits. Dreamsmoke seems to have gone as no contact as he can anyway with his dad, and he didn't want his kids getting hurt in any way, emotionally, physically, whatever. Flamebear has a bad track record with babies. Also, he has still been flirty with other cats throughout the year, but he really loved Echo Lily, and you could tell. Also, Dreamsmoke ate prey on patrol that got reported when he got back, resulting in him having to dig a new dirt place as punishment, and then he also stole a rabbit from J-Clan uncaught. So he definitely is still a troublemaker, but he at least cares about his family, and he wants to know who the monster that killed his mate was. Also, I tried to fix it with mediators, but Flamebear and Dreamsmoke actually have mutual hate for each other now, and I'm scared. Next up is Rushwind, who is now 32 moons old, who's been a bit of a mess, but a playful kind. He was startled by a squirrel and then fell from a tree, but luckily he was only bruised. He later was laughing gleefully with his clanmates and likes to make immature jokes all day that leave other cats rolling their eyes. He seems more social at least, which is really good. Rushwind was sad when his dad died, but he's trying to push through it. Hollowstar actually immediately gave him an apprentice, which shocked him since he thought the leader didn't like him. Rushwind is a little awkward around the new Micah kit, but he's starting to see that Hollowstar is more of a flawed, stressed cat who honestly shouldn't be in power, but he'll keep his mouth shut about that, rather than a ruthless killing machine. Rushwind still has dislike for Hollowstar. I mean, he did kill his mom, but it's not like he can do anything about the volatile leader himself. He winced at Springhaze's punishment, remembering how it felt when the kitty pet attacked him last year. Side note, that guy is still alive and chilling outside the clan. Please don't join us. But moving on. Next up is the 26-moon-old Oriole Chirp, and he also had a list of complaints for Holostar despite not voicing them out loud. He's just been minding his own business, but he likes going on solo adventures where he maps out the territory or hunts alone. He promises his clanmates that he won't do anything dangerous while out, and so far he's been good on that. During the Moss Clan stream, Bubbling Mark, a Moss Clan cat, did mention that she ran along the border with her GalaxyClan rival, and I think it's Oriole Chirp, based on clues and stuff. They're around the same age. I also did send him out on a couple of patrols with Midnight Lilac since I wanted to see if they would get along, and let's just say they definitely are. And while we're talking about him, the 25-moon-old newly named Midnight Lilac became a warrior almost immediately and pointed out that he hadn't caught a venomous snake yet before seeing very confused looks around the clan and remembering that that was a Viper Clan tradition and did not happen here, which he was a little embarrassed about. He's pretty close with Branch Deer, but he thinks about his old clanmates a lot and took a bit to fit in here, feeling a little underappreciated at some point and feeling horrified at unknowingly being involved with the Dark Forest, as well as causing a coughing fit in his leader. But he slowly has fit in more and felt wild and free while running with Oriole Chirp. And this is where I mentioned that they actually are crushing on each other, and I think that's adorable. Love that for them. Midnight Lilac was distracted on the moon that he heard his dad Snipcloud died, feeling conflicted since he hadn't protected him from being exiled in the past, but he seems to just be trying to live his own life the best he can now. He was also probably sad because that same moon his brother Pikefleck died. But yeah, he's trying his best. Moving on to the Wigglebutt kits. Next up is the 15-moon-old newly named Abyss Watcher who was named via community post. Thank you guys. She is fierce, a great hunter, and a great teacher. As a kid, she bounced around excitedly, ready to be apprenticed, and concerningly, she used to be bloodthirsty when she was apprenticed to Branch Deer. He tried to quiz her about how to catch a frush on their first patrol, but she rolled her eyes and an annoyed Branch Deer just let her try to hunt it herself, being unsurprised when it got away and she threw a hissy fit. She also unnerved Branch Deer with her intensity with battle training on a moon that said Freckle Spot was walking in her dreams. And as mentioned earlier, she hissed at Echo Lily at some point. She softened more after Branch Deer lost a leg and helped her mentor adjust, being more patient with him. The two bonded over Abyss Paw having a twisted paw and Branch Deer now having a missing leg. And they later found an abandoned kit, but it was already gone, so they buried it saying a prayer to StarClan. Very sad. She was honored for her cunning despite her warrior ceremony, and I think she was training with Frecklespot, who was bad-mouthing Branch Deer, but stopped doing that after his injury, and then the two got closer, especially after Springhaze's punishment. She's also currently mad that her brother Larkcurl passed away and is grieving him in her own way. Her brother is now named Roostertail, and he is bold, a lore keeper, and a great hunter. He was apprenticed to Holostar, and they were practicing hunting techniques on their first patrol, with Holostar going back to his attempting to teach how to scent and move around without sight method, but Roosterpaw was sneaky and he was cheating a bit. But I'm sure Holostar could tell. He also refused to take training seriously when Holostar took him out to an eagle's nest, and Holostar had to take him away before the eagle would notice them. Roosterpaw also criticized Holostar and taunted a rival clan's apprentice, but Roosterpaw was scared by a Kia on patrol, which is basically a big parrot. Holostar came over and batted a stone down a slope, distracting it, and then led it away with a branch from a shrub, the sight looking a little silly. Roosterpaw was embarrassed for being scared, but he was shocked when Holostar said that Kia are very dangerous and not to be embarrassed. He seemed to gain respect from that and took training a bit more seriously, impressing Holostar with correctly stating hunting techniques, and he was made a warrior a moon after his siblings and honored for his vulnerability. He's sad at the loss of his brother, but he's doing his best, and I really love him now. But moving on to the apprentice den, we have the 6-moon-old Swanpaw and Cartpaw, who are the two insecure sons of Echo Lily and Dreamsmoke. Swanpaw is an avid play fighter, and Cartpaw never sits still, and also got heterochromia. So now we have two different cats with it when we waited like 17 years just for one of them to show up in game. Thanks, Glangen. But anyway, the brothers are very close after their mom's murder. As a kid, Swankit thought that Flamebear didn't like him, but Dreamsmoke said not to worry about it. Carpkit didn't think he would ever be made an apprentice, but their ceremonies were soured by the fact their mom was murdered shortly before. Swanpaw was apprenticed to Rushwind and caught a mouse on his first patrol, trying to be happy about it and being encouraged by the playful mentor. Meanwhile, Cartpaw was apprenticed to Wigglebutt, and they ran into a nosy kitty pet on patrol that couldn't take a hint and made things pretty awkward. Side note, that's a random OC cameo from the Discord like all my other side cats that pop up here. Please don't start headcanoning that's Wigglebutt's old mate just because he has a mustache. I realized afterwards. Also, I think Hollistar gave them more silly mentors, seeing if maybe that would help them cheer up a bit. But with that said, I'm so sad for these boys, and I just want them to be happy. Game, please be nice to them. But we're going to be heading into the nursery now. First up, we have the 131-moon-old Hilfuzz, with Snow's 5-moon-old daughters, the Nervous Micah Kit and the Quiet Vixen Kit, who was born missing an eye. Hollistar continues to only have daughters, and I love it. Back to Hilfuzz for a bit. Fuzz retired earlier in the year at 121 moons old, and is very concerned with Fuzz's mate's behavior, but Snow is trying to support him. Hilfuzz was very sad at the loss of Fuzz's first litter, and wondered why StarClan couldn't just take Snow instead. But on a lighter note, Hilfuzz was telling stories about the hole in the sky, and was the original teller of the witch hair story. Again, let me know what you think these stories are about. The hole in the sky just makes me think of Chicken Little. Onto the kits now. These two are just about to become apprentices. Also, Vixen Kit asks Kale what it's like to be so old, and she gets away with that on behalf of being not only a child, but the kid of the leader. But side note, Vixen Kit, your parents are old too. Also, she's noticed that her sister Micah Kit is acting strange. Unknown to anyone, Micah Kit walked in on Flamebear killing Cavern Bounce, and he hissed at her and threatened her to be quiet. He then made her bring poison prey to a cat, which ended up being Pond. Yes, when I checked the code to see who killed Pond, it said that the 4-moon-old child at the time was the killer. I fully believe Flamebear made her do this, and I'm scared for this baby's future. But moving on to our last cats, Gold Dazzle is now 50 moons old, and she is also in the nursery as well, with her 3-moon-old daughters. Lots of little baby girls in the nursery. We have the Polite Pebble Kit and Little Kit, as well as the Self-Conscious Gus Kit, who I'm sure is self-conscious because when I checked who killed Echo Lily, it said that Gus Kit was the killer. How did we roll for 2 different sad babies to kill cats in 1 year? Flamebear, leave the children alone. They are terrified of you. I refuse to believe that these two were not made to do this against their will. But ignoring the extremely concerning murders, all 3 of these kits are adorable and brought back a lot of old traits. And finishing on a better note, Gold Dazzle is happy that Fuzzy Flake can take turns parenting, and was also giving Dreamsmoke advice. But yeah, that's year 18. We have 2 coerced murder kittens, and I'm scared. Let's check out the other clans real quick. As for our leaders, Hollistar is still here at 5 lives. Moss Clan still has Thunderstar and didn't actually lose any cats in position to power this year, but Frosty Dapple, their past leader, did die. Thunderstar still has 9 lives, and in general, Moss Clan has a ton of cats right now. J-Clan has a new leader after Tiny Star lost her remaining lives to old age, so now we have Blue Star, and he's trying his best. But concerningly, some of the cats seem worried in his leadership ceremony. Tiny Star's death is still fresh, and he's only been leader for about 2 moons, so we'll have to see how he does. He's ambitious, but I don't think he's gonna be bad, but we'll see. Serpent Star is still around at 167 moons old, and he's had a hard year. The Flood took his deputy and his only medicine cat at the time, along with a couple warriors, but at different times this year, he also lost his mate Lily Patch and 2 of his kids. So Valley actually gave birth close to J-Clan, and when a patrol came too close, a J-Clan apprentice had been killed. Serpent Star is grieving and on edge, which makes me fear his drastic decisions he may be making. Deputy-wise, we still have Stone Fawn, and everyone is so fluffy here. In Moss Clan, Antlersock came out as a trans male, so we love that for him. And he and his mate actually had another litter of kits, but sadly, 2 of them did die young. Blue Star chose the adventurous Missile Dust to be deputy in J-Clan, and I'm rooting for her to do great. All of this girl's kin is dead, and her mom is in the Dark Forest after she murdered and never got caught. But I don't know if anyone knows that in Clan. Missile Dust is doing her best, and she also has a weak leg and struggles a bit with that. Onto the Viper Clan deputy. This is an illegal choice. Basically, the game thinks that the thoughtful Gardenia Fluff has had an apprentice, but she hasn't. So Serpent Star doesn't seem to care about the rules right now. Gardenia Fluff is a more senior warrior, and Serpent Star likes her, so she gets the position regardless of qualifications. Medicine Cats, Flamebear. Yep. Moving on, Snake Eye's still here and hoping for a new Medicine Cat apprentice next year. The Old Man Club of Medicine Cats in Moss Clan are still around, but they often have statuses related to having a hard time with their job, so really rooting for a younger med cat to step up next year. Garlic Spirit of J-Clan passed away after being killed by an unknown predator, which I've decided was a mountain lion. It actually killed like 2 different J-Clan cats this year, but shortly after her death, Quiver Spirit joined the clan, changing her old name of Old Deuteronomy. I think I said that right. She used to be a barn cat, and after stream, I decided that she's Silvalley's older sister. And possibly that's why Silvally had gave birth so close to the J-Clan border. Also, Rat Splinter has been getting a lot of omens, and I really hope it doesn't have anything to do with his mate Blue Star. And Skip Fluff is still going good, though she did take a bit to warm up to Quiver Stripe. The Viper Clan Medicine Cat just joined, and she is the 90-moon-old Compassionate Moon Ember, who used to be a rogue. Sounds really familiar. I believe she was part of Valley and Scorch's rogue group, and based off the fire names, I've decided that she's related in some way to Scorch. But yeah, she literally just joined. And looking at the mediators, we lost Pond in GalaxyClan, but Kale stepped up to help Thunder Spirit. Tetra Stripe of Moss Clan has been a bit stinky this year and has sabotaged happy couples many times. Please stop doing that. J-Clan still has no mediator, but their lost old man mediator did come back, but he died immediately upon return by the Mountain Lion at 186 moons old. So that's sad. But the Viper Clan mediator Okerforn is still doing their best, and they have a new apprentice, the 11-moon-old Righteous Mosspaw, who decided that she really wanted to be a mediator. She's also paralyzed and was scolded for taking sides in an argument when mediating. She's kind of sassy. Her mom, Coyote Moss, joined Viper Clan with her free kits, and she was from another clan. But we decided on stream that Coyote Moss is actually from one of the old clans that we left behind. So, Bug, Sharp, or Creek Clan. I'm kind of leaning towards Sharp Clan, but let me know what you think. Also, she had no idea any of the past of the bordering clans or any drama, so she actually joined with a Moss kit when there is a Moss clan, and she joined with a Midnight kit when Midnight Paw was still a big topic in Viper Clan, so that was kind of funny to me. But yeah, Moss Paw still does have her 2 siblings, but her mom did die in the flood, so that was really sad. Also, her siblings are already warriors. But yeah, I really love Moss Paw. And yeah, that's year 18. This was so dramatic. What do you mean we had 3 different murders in 1 year and that was all generated in-game and I didn't do anything and that 2 of the killers are kits? Game, what are you doing? I'm taken aback. I am flabbergasted. I'm so worried about those babies, and while I do want more medicine cats, I'm scared if either of those 2 specifically become one, it will bring them closer to Flame Bear, who they fear and is kind of an abuser. Holostar also would be furious if he found out Flame Bear is manipulating his daughter. I'm hoping for the best with the new couples and crushes happening. We are still on the larger side for the clans, so I'm probably not inviting anyone unless they join on a time skip or the clan size decreases, but I might be tempted if we run into like injured cats or something like that. I find it very hard to say no to them. I'm really concerned for Spring Haze now that he's basically on Holostar's bad list. Holostar has a really high dislike for him. It's not in the hate bar, but it's really big, and I'm scared. Holostar didn't listen to him, and I hope that he stays safe. This clan kind of feels like it's falling apart a bit, and with how little cats seem to get along right now, and all the suspicions going around, I'm scared of another murder happening. And depending on what happens in-game, I might add more Dark Forest stuff that I roll myself. But it seems like they're doing a pretty good job on their own of causing drama. There's so many players in the Dark Forest now, including Snipcloud, who is very interesting. Also, let me know if you guys think that Flame Bear was poisoning cats and if some of the deaths that happened this year that weren't specifically murder might have been murder, or if I'm reading too into that. But yeah, that was a crazy year and I'm scared. Thank you for watching. I'd appreciate if you could like, subscribe, and check out my links below. The game is there, my Discord is there, the family tree that I think I forgot to update last year is there. I'll update it soon. And my socials are there. My commissions are open if you'd like to support me that way. And with that said, I'll see you next time. Peace.